There are letters that are written to be sent, and there are letters that are written because there is no other way to survive the weight of what must be said. In 1919, Franz Kafka sat down to write a letter to his father, Hermann Kafka. It was not a plea for reconciliation, but a 47-page exorcism of shame, fear, and the suffocating authority that had defined his life since childhood. The letter was never delivered. His mother, perhaps out of fear or helplessness, kept it from his father. Kafka begins the letter not with anger, but with resignation. "Dearest father," he writes, "you asked me recently why I maintain that I am afraid of you. As usual, I was unable to think of any answer to your question, partly for the very reason that I am afraid of you, and partly because an explanation of the grounds for this fear would mean going into far more details than I could even approximately keep in mind while talking." From the very beginning, Kafka's tone is not one of rebellion, but of paralysis. The letter unfolds like a confession written by a man who has long carried the burden of being misunderstood. His father, he says, was a man of immense strength, whose confidence and willpower stood in sharp contrast to his own fragile sensibility. "You were so tremendously certain of yourself, and in comparison, I was so uncertain." He recalls moments of humiliation that became the blueprint of his lifelong anxiety. Among them, one childhood memory stands above the rest, when his father punished him for crying at night. "Once, in the night, I kept on crying for water, not because I was thirsty, but probably partly to be annoying, partly to amuse myself. After a few vigorous threats had failed to produce any effect, you took me out of bed, carried me onto the Pavlach, and left me alone there for a little while, in my nightshirt, outside the locked door." Kafka then adds, "That was only a small beginning, but it was typical of your methods of upbringing and the effect they had on me. From that time on, I was obedient, at least in outward things, but inside I was full of resentment." What follows is not a son accusing his father of cruelty, but a man dissecting the anatomy of fear. Kafka writes, "There is only one single thing that I would like to make clear, namely that the fact that I am what I am is in the main features your influence." His father's voice, once booming through the family home, became internalized. It became the invisible judge within him, the one that silenced him in every act of self-expression, every attempt at love, every effort to belong. He admits that even as an adult, he could not speak freely in his father's presence. "In your presence, I lose even the ability to think," he confesses. "You have always reproached me for not being able to stand up for myself, but you mistake the effect for the cause." Throughout the letter, Kafka oscillates between accusation and understanding. He writes not with hatred, but with painful empathy. "You have some right to reproach me," he concedes. "I have never been a proper son to you. I loved you, I suppose, but I could not bear to come near you." And then, in one of the letter's most haunting reflections, Kafka sums up their lifelong distance. "There was, in fact, no true relationship between us. There has only been the pressure of your personality on one side and the timidity of mine on the other." The letter mirrors his fiction, the cold authority figures, the invisible systems of guilt, the endless search for justification. When Gregor Samsa in the Metamorphosis is struck by an apple thrown by his father, or when Georg Benderman in The Judgment is condemned by his father to drown himself, one can hear echoes of the same fear that shaped this letter. By the end, there is no resolution, no reconciliation, only exhaustion. What was always incomprehensible to me was your total lack of feeling for the suffering and shame you could inflict on me with your words and judgments. I cannot think of any greater punishment than this permanent feeling of guilt." Kafka closes the letter with the calm despair of a man who has already accepted the impossibility of understanding. He says in the end, "Perhaps you will think all this is a kind of joke, or worse still, sheer impertinence. It is not meant to be either. It is only an attempt to explain to you and to myself why I could never be the son you wanted." Franz Kafka died 5 years later, the letter never read by the man it was written for, yet it remains one of the most honest confessions in literary history, a document not merely of paternal conflict, but of the universal struggle between authority and sensitivity, strength and vulnerability, silence and the desperate need to be heard. It is, ultimately, not just a letter to his father. It is a letter to every person who has lived in fear of disappointing someone they could never please, and who, despite every effort, could never find the words to bridge the distance between love and terror.